If gold were as abundant as salt, it would be less valuable despite its beauty and unique traits. Though gold is found on every continent, extracting it is labor-intensive and yields little. For instance, South Africa's 500 tons of gold annually requires moving 70 million tons of earth more than the volume of the Great Pyramid of Cheops. Similarly, California's 49ers often ended up with just traces of gold. Yet, this immense effort hasn't deterred humanity's pursuit of gold, reflecting its enduring allure and value throughout history even in myths. Gold, resistant to mixing with other metals, forms thin veins in granite and quartz under intense heat over millions of years. Natural forces have scattered these deposits, but gold retains its purity, often settling in streams as heavy nuggets or fine dust. In ancient times, gold seemed more abundant, particularly in Egypt and the Near East, where annual mining yielded about 1 ton. Before coinage, gold primarily belonged to monarchs and priests, serving ceremonial purposes to signify power and divinity, with the remainder used for adornment. The story of Moses and the golden calf highlights gold's early role. Despite their status as slaves, the Jews had gold, but it wasn't seen as money, making it useless for bribery. Instead, they used it for personal adornment until melting it into an idol, showcasing gold's symbolic value over practical utility in ancient societies. The Bible's 400 Yahwan references to gold highlight its abundance and significance in ancient times. Job laments the sin of idolizing wealth, while Genesis describes Abraham as rich in cattle, silver and gold, gifting gold vessels and jewelry to Rebekah. On Mount Sinai, Moses received not only the 10 Commandments, but also detailed instructions from God for a sanctuary and tabernacle, both adorned with pure gold. God's specifications extended to furniture, fixtures, and decorations, with meticulous designs detailed across 80 paragraphs in Exodus, underscoring gold's sacred and symbolic role in worship. After settling in the Promised Land, the Jews amassed gold, often from defeated tribes. Moses and his troops took over 300 pounds of gold from the Midianites, while Solomon's temple gleamed with gold, covering its walls, shields, and even his ivory throne. The Queen of Sheba famously gifted Solomon up to 3 tons of gold, worth over 1,020 million today. Though Solomon's temple and Moses' sanctuary have vanished, gold continued to symbolize power. In 532 AD, Emperor Justinian used over 12 metric tons of gold to build St. Sophia in Constantinople, declaring, "Solomon, I have surpassed thee." Justinian, adept in gold's utility, inherited £320,000 but spent it on mercenaries, public works, and bribes, a pattern mirrored in golden church mosaics across Europe and Russia. Gold has long been used to inspire reverence, with the ancient Egyptians setting the precedent for later religions. While the Jews and Christians focused on one deity and saints in Christianity, the Egyptians worshipped over 2,000 gods, using vast amounts of gold to emphasize their power. Gold was exclusively reserved for pharaohs, reinforcing their godlike status, with elaborate gold jewelry adorning both the living and the dead. A striking example is Hatshepsut, Egypt's first great female pharaoh. Ruling from 1470 to 1458 BC, she took titles like Son of the Sun and Golden Horus, though often depicted as male in art. Her reign marked a resurgence in trade with Palestine, Syria, and Crete, and extensive gold exploration, likely reaching as far as Zimbabwe. Hatshepsut's use of gold exemplified her authority and Egypt's wealth. Hatshepsut's demand for gold was immense, driven by her grand architectural ambitions. She outdid even Louis XIV, using gold not only for decoration but also as a cosmetic, gilding her face with a gold-silver dust mixture. Her monumental project for Amon-Ra included plans for 2 100-foot gold pillars at Karnak, a complex larger than the Vatican. Though persuaded to economize by using granite with gold-covered peaks, the result was still dazzling. Hatshepsut declared, "Their height pierces to heaven. You who after long years shall see these monuments will say, 'We do not know how they can have made whole mountains of gold.'" Most gold in biblical times and ancient Egypt, around 4,000 years before Christ, came from Nubia, whose name derives from the Egyptian word for gold, nub. Nubia's mines were prolific, supplying more gold than all known sources until the Americas were discovered. Initially shallow ditches, these mines evolved into deep underground shafts, where conditions were harrowing. Greek historian Diodorus described fetid air, extreme heat, and arsenic fumes from fires used to crack quartz, leading to agonizing deaths. Slaves worked in darkness, often on their backs or sides, enduring exhaustion, collapsing earth, and fatal rockfalls, making these mines symbols of unimaginable human suffering. Slavery was central to maintaining the gold mines, with warfare supplying a steady influx of enslaved laborers. Diodorus notes that Egyptian kings enslaved not only war captives and criminals, but also their own kin, including women and children, all subjected to brutal conditions without shelter or care. To prevent escapes, guards were mercenaries from diverse nations who didn't share a language with the slaves, minimizing the risk of communication or rebellion. This calculated system ensured control over the enslaved workforce, sustaining the relentless pursuit of gold at a staggering human cost. Human labor remained the primary method for mining gold until the 20th century, with one major exception: the Romans' innovative hydraulicking technique in Spain. These gold-rich hills were vital to the Roman economy. Initially, workers dug as deep as 650 feet, but hydraulicking revolutionized the process by using powerful water jets to break apart rock and expose gold-bearing earth. Water was stored in tanks 400 to 800 feet above the mining sites, providing the pressure needed for this efficient method. However, it came at a high environmental cost, washing away mountains, destroying farmland, and silting rivers and harbors. In South Africa's vast gold mines, shafts plunged 12,000 feet below the surface, where temperatures soar to 130 degrees F. Producing a single ounce of gold requires immense resources: 38 man-hours, 1,400 gallons of water, electricity for 10 days, hundreds of cubic feet of compressed air, and chemicals like cyanide, acids, and lime. The workforce exceeds 400,000, with 90% being black laborers. The relentless drive for gold echoes King Ferdinand of Spain's 1511 decree: "Get gold, humanely if possible, but at all hazards get gold." Gold doesn't always require mining. It can be collected from mountain streams. Prospectors use sieves to gather fragments of gold-bearing ore that break free from mountainsides. This method was practiced in ancient Asia Minor, where gold coinage first emerged. Centuries later, the same technique sparked the California gold rush. In 1849, the 49ers flocked to the Sacramento River, using simple tools to pan gold from its waters, igniting one of history's most famous gold rushes. The 49ers were reviving an ancient Greek technique, where woolly sheepskins were used to pan gold from rivers. The tight curls of the fleece effectively trapped gold fragments carried by rushing waters. This association of fleece with gold brings to mind the legend of Jason and the Golden Fleecia, tale rich with moral lessons and historical resonance, making it a fitting point of reflection in the context of humanity's enduring pursuit of gold. Phrixus, son of the king of Boeotia in eastern Greece, fled mistreatment by his stepmother with his sister Helle, on a winged ram with a fleece of pure gold, a divine gift from Hermes. The journey was perilous, as the heavy golden fleece likely tested even a ram of celestial origin. Helle, unfortunately prone to airsickness, fell from the ram into the sea, which was thereafter named the Hellespont in her memory. Phrixus clung to the ram, and after a journey of over 1,000 miles, he arrived safely in Colchis, on the far eastern side of the Black Sea. Grateful for his survival, he sacrificed the ram to Zeus and gave the golden fleece to King Aeetes of Colchis. Aeetes, thrilled by the gift, had been warned by an oracle that his life depended on possessing the fleece. In response, he nailed it to a tree in a sacred grove and set a fierce dragon to guard it. In northern Greece, King Peleus sought to rid himself of his popular nephew Jason, who was pressing his family's claim to the throne. Peleus offered Jason the throne, but only if he first completed a task: fetch back the fleece of the golden ram. Peleus believed this impossible, expecting Jason to either perish on the journey or be slain by the dragon guarding the fleece. Peleus never imagined Jason would succeed and return with the prize. Jason did manage to take the Golden Fleece, but only with the help of his loyal Argonauts and after enduring a series of harrowing adventures. His success would not have been possible without Medea, the daughter of King Aeetes, who had fallen deeply in love with him after being struck by Eros' dart. Using her magic, Medea assisted Jason, though she demanded a solemn oath from him in return. She insisted he swear by the gods, and in front of witnesses, that he would make her his rightful wife upon their return to Greece. With Jason's promise secured, Medea lulled the guardian dragon to sleep, allowing Jason to seize the Golden Fleece. The story of Jason and Medea ends tragically, as Jason's ambition ultimately leads to his downfall. Determined to become king, Jason risked everything for the Golden Fleece and used Medea, the daughter of King Aeetes, for her magic and promise of marriage. However, upon returning to Greece, he was unable to claim the throne. He fled with Medea to Corinth, where he soon began courting the daughter of King Creon, only informing Medea of his intentions after his engagement had been secured. When Medea, devastated, reminded Jason of the oath he swore in Colchis, he coldly justified his actions, claiming that his children would have a better future with his new bride due to her superior social and political connections. All he offered Medea in return was some gold and a plea for friends to provide her with shelter. Medea's revenge was both chilling and final. She crafted a stunning gown made of gold cloth, laced with poison, and presented it to Jason's new bride. The young woman, overjoyed by the beauty of the gift, donned the gown and adorned herself with the golden wreath, only to die in agonizing pain. Medea's vengeance didn't stop there. In a heart-wrenching act of cruelty, she killed her own children, ensuring that Jason's bloodline would end with her. Afterward, Medea escaped in a dragon-drawn chariot she summoned through her magic. Jason, broken and alone, returned home only to throw himself on his sword, dying in despair at the threshold of the life he had longed for but ultimately destroyed. The Golden Fleece, which had symbolized power and the fulfillment of Jason's ambitions, ultimately became the source of his undoing. It led him to a throne and a princess, but it was the very allure of that golden promise that caused his downfall. In seeking greater power and status, Jason betrayed the woman who had helped him achieve his quest, Medea. His ambition, fueled by the gold, destroyed his relationships, his family, and his future. In the end, the gold that had once held such promise for him became a symbol of the tragic consequences of greed and betrayal.